What's up guys, it's Blaze from FunBox here, and let's put in the new variables as well as the functions that we're going to use in this section. So I'm going to try and keep these videos short, but with the camera here, I'm not so sure how, there are some sections where I fast forward, right? Because I just want to get that code done. I'm not so sure how I'm going to be able to fast forward that, but you know what? I'll figure things out as we go along. If you guys have a suggestion for how you want me to chop these videos up, I would greatly appreciate it. Leave those suggestions in the comment section below. So let's add in our base stats now. Let's put in our macros first, right? So our first macro is definitely going to be our attack. And we'll set that to, actually no. Let's put attack as, just to make it easier for ourselves. Let's put attack and then defense, not that. Macro, defense, we'll set that to 4. And then we have our accuracy as well. Now, like I said, there are, I don't think I said this actually, maybe I said it in a different take, but there are so many different ways to implement this, and I can only show you, and I know I've said this, I can only show you one way to be able to implement something like this. And we have a conflicting macro here. So attack power, and I'm going to set this to defense power as well, and accuracy is going to be accuracy. I'll just leave it at that. And now that we have our macros in, let's put in our base stats as well. So base attack power, and let's set our base attack power to, let's set it to 2, right? We'll just hard code the numbers in. You can use iRandom range later if you want, but for now let's just get the basic functionality in, because like I said, we're only going to be working and to put in the variables and the functions for this video. So let's copy and paste that. I know I say don't copy and paste, but this is new territory for me, okay? Having a camera here in front of me talking to you guys, or like I feel like I'm talking to you guys anyway. I don't know if you feel the same way. If you do, let me know in the comments below. And so we have our base attack and base defense. Last but not least, we also need our base accuracy. I am looking for a headset that can replace these, because this is actually replacing an older headset that recently stopped working properly. Like I can hear in one ear, but the microphone itself doesn't work that great anymore. So I mean, it's basically done. I could fix it, but I mean, it was a cheap $10 headset, so I think it'd be more trouble fixing it than it would be just to get a new one. Doesn't matter about that though. Right, so I said that accuracy should range between 0 and 1. I think for us, what we'll do is, just for the sake of being able to debug things, I will set it to 0.5. As you progress through your own development, you can set it to whatever value you want. In fact, generally speaking, I would leave it at 1, and then the current accuracy is what I would change. But for now, let's just leave it at 0.5, because what we're going to do is we're just going to take these 3 variables here, and instead of just blindly copy pasting, we will copy paste the attack power here, the defense power down below that. Now, if you guys remember, we are referencing the base and setting it as our current. These base values are not supposed to be changed. And so if, for example, you're spawning your units and you're reading their stats off of a JSON file or off of a different object in the game, then that's what will be your base. these current values, or the current health, for example, is what will actually change in the game. All right, so just as a quick reminder for you guys. Of course, we need the accuracy down here, and our variables are now in play. Cool. That's all done. The next step is to put those two functions in, and the first function is going to be function, and I'm going to call mine hurt. The other function, actually, you know what? Let's do that. Let's put in, I forgot that, the attack will hit variable. So attack will hit. I got a bit ahead of myself, so sorry about that. Attack will hit. We'll set that to false right here at the start. And of course, incoming damage. Damage equals 0. All right, so these are all of our new variables here. We've got our 3 new stats, which is going to be our attack, our defense, and our accuracy. And of course, we have the attack will hit and incoming damage ones. All right, let's put in the check if attack will hit function by opening up our scripts and going into the helper here. And just underneath the bubble sort, what we're going to do is put in the new function. And I'm going to call mine check for hit. Right? And it's going to take no parameters. All right, so in this section, like I said, we're going to roll some random die. Or rather, we're going to run a random number. This number is going to just be anything between 0 and 1. That's including decimals, right? It's different to iRandom in that I stands for integer. Integers being whole numbers, whereas random itself includes integers as well as decimal numbers, just to keep explanations simple. All right, so for us, we're going to store that number in a local variable here. So we are going to call mine var. I'm just going to call it number is a random. There it is, random x here, and that x being 1. Okay, so we're going to run if. Actually, no, we need another local variable here. And we're going to call it variable unit. And I'm going to reference the global.selectedUnit, right? And then we're going to run an if statement. We're going to check if the number is greater than unit dot current accuracy. That is incorrect. That should all be capital. There we go. All right, so, oops, I'm using a Japanese keyboard. So if this number is greater than the accuracy here, we are going to tell this variable, this attack will hit variable, and we're going to set it to true. If it's less than that, it's going to set it to false. Right? So just keep that in mind. So if this number is greater than accuracy, then unit dot attack will hit equals true. Else, it's basically this line here. Else it will be naturally false. Now, you might be wondering, why don't we just leave it as is? Well, we could leave it as, not being read at all. But then what will happen if in, say, unit A's turn before they did hit, but then in this turn they couldn't? It will still stay as true, and we don't want that to happen. So that's why each and every single time this function is called, we need to check and we need to set the variable. We need to set that boolean to either true or false manually. Now we're not going to call this function, we're not going to call the check for hit function in the unit itself. what we are going to do for now is add a little more debug code. And right after turn finished, we will add in a comma, and then we'll put in the string value for attack will hit there. So just like that. And so when we play the game, nothing's going to change because we haven't fully implemented yet. But we have here this last 0 is attack will hit. And right, so nothing changes, but we can see that attack will hit is right here on the end. Actually, you know what? That should be easier to see now. We're not done yet. We can't actually call this function because what we need to do is we need to go to our sequences into SPlayer, and right here, I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see just a little bit better. Here is where we need to decide where we are going to call, if I just pull up the function, where we are going to call for this check for hit. All right, we can call it anywhere along where our attack animation plays. So here is our attack animation timeline. This is the part of the timeline that has our attack animation here. All right, so we can start it from 30 all the way through to 65. All right, so those are the options that you have. Where you decide to call the function is completely up to you. What matters is that we add in the moment here, this little lightning bolt icon. That is the moment icon. And I'm going to put mine at frame 40 just for the sake of making things easier. By clicking it, you get shown this little window here, right? It's got moment at the top here. And you have a window, and in this window, you type in the function that you're looking for. So for us, it's check for hit, and there we go. You can see it there. Now, as of the last time that I had a look, and I think with the update notes, you can't pass in a function that requires parameters. Not yet. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Originally, I wanted it so that all of our code, or most of our code, would be coming from the sequences itself, but maybe it allows for it now, but I'll have to check into that for you guys. But for now, let's just keep it simple. We're just going to run a function that doesn't need any parameters. Because as far as I know, as far as I've tested, it doesn't work. This button here will take us to the function. So if I click that, it'll take us here. And you can see that it's gone ahead and disappeared. And then, so let me write that out again for you guys. Check for hit. This button will add another function onto it. So we can actually add in, if it doesn't already exist, it creates a new function for us, right? So that's just a little something for you guys to fiddle around with when you want to. And then this one is, of course, to delete this particular moment. So if I click that, it goes away, it disappears. Let me rewrite that for you guys. Check for hit. All right, and then we've got the section here, frame 40. That's where we're going to play the moment. We can change this here in this window, but to set it in motion, we're going to click OK. All right, so there we go. Let's save that out. Let's check to see if our check for hits actually come up with anything. And you can see there that the number went from 0 to 1, which means that if we had the full attack code working, this character's attack would actually hit, right? And if we click again, you see this time when he had his turn, it didn't switch over to 1. Okay, so it basically works just like that. That's all that it does. And that basically closes off this particular part of this section, at least for now, because all it really does is it check for hit. Now, if we go back into the parent object, the parent unit, or the unit parent, we're going to come back to the create event, and here is where we're going to write our hurt function. So in our step event, here in the hurt state, we are going to run this function here whenever they're hurt. But as of right now, this early on in this section, we're not going to be able to access it just yet. So for now, let's just write the function in. It's going to be called function. We'll call it damage player. Damage unit, not player, because every unit can be damaged. It's going to take one parameter, and that is, we're just going to call it amount. And this amount is the incoming damage here, right? So just keep that in mind. This amount, we're going to go ahead and we are going to, actually, you know what? Let's do this. Amount equals incoming damage minus, actually, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. So let's go var equals amount minus current at defense power. There we go. And then we're going to check to see if that doesn't make any sense. Var damage. We'll just call it damage. And so the next step here is to check if the damage is less than 0, then current health stays the same. Nothing happens. But if it's greater than 0, then we minus this amount, this damage, from the current HP. All right, so let me write that here. If damage is less than 0, then current health, we're just going to leave it at current health. Strictly speaking, you don't need to have this line in, but there might be a case. I have a feeling that there might be a case where it'll mess up. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to have this particular line in, but just in case, it doesn't hurt to be prepared. All right, so else. In all other cases, if the damage is greater than 0, we're going to write current health, current, and we need to use the accessor in this case. Actually, we need it in this case right here. We're going to minus, we're going to take away from it the damage. All right. Like I said before, we can use this function here. We can write something like this: current at health minus equals max. Now what max does, if I just open this up real quick for you guys, so let it load, here we go. So what max does is it returns the maximum of the input values, of which it can have up to 16. But for us, we only need 2. We only need to check if it's 0 or if it's any other number. So in this case, if you were to use max, you would type in 0 or damage, I guess, in this case, and leave it at that. You can do that as well. Whichever one you choose, whether it's one version or this one, whichever one you decide to go with, it's completely up to you. They do the exact same thing. But I think for the sake of the very, very beginners among us, even though I've already said that if you are a beginner to programming, you shouldn't be trying to take on this kind of game. I mean, I can't tell you guys to not do it. I can only advise you. So if you consider yourself to be an absolute beginner, then doing something like this is completely fine. It's fine for what we need it to do. But I mean, this one is just one line of code, right? So test them out. Test them out for yourself and see which one suits you. I mean, they both do the same thing. It should be fine. At least looking at it right now, they do the same thing. But for now, I'm just going to comment that out because we don't actually need it. And then for the last part of this, in our step event, what we're going to do is before we set the head position, we will call our damage unit function. Damage unit, and we need a parameter here. This is where the incoming damage comes into play. Right, so incoming damage. Incoming, I keep writing damage, but it should be damage there. And that's it. That's it for this section. We're finished. We've got our two functions here, which is our damage unit function as well as our check for hit. So what can we do now? Well, at this stage, we can only check to see if we can actually hit our targets. What's missing between checking for the hit and checking for damage is actually dealing damage or sending damage from one unit to another. And that's what we're going to cover in the videos following this one. It is going to take a little bit longer, so we might actually be seeing 3 videos for this one, but doesn't matter about that. Don't worry, one step at a time, guys. We'll get there eventually. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, you want to see more, hit the red subscribe button, leave a thumbs up. And if you guys have any questions or you're stuck on something, maybe you have a suggestion to make my code better, or maybe you want to feature in this particular series that I haven't covered yet, leave them in the comment section below. Or if you just want to say hi or say thanks for making this series, that's fine too. Just leave it there in the comment section below. I read every single one of these comments, and if I feel that I can, answer them, then I will. And if I can't, then I'll tell you that I can't answer that particular question. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.